Sixers fans, how we feeling out there? Hey y'all, my name is Lauren Gordon. Some of you may already know me on social media as Lauren Fan of the Year. Others may have just stumbled upon this podcast. But either way, I want to first thank all of you for tuning in to Season 2, Episode 17 of my very first podcast. I'm just a Sixers fan, the Lauren Fan of the Year story. Now let's continue the story. Y'all, the time is now late October 2021. With Ben Simmons holding out, it was the perfect opportunity for my guy, Tyrese Maxey, to step up and fill his spot. I told y'all, I love Ben, but he was becoming a huge distraction. If he no longer wanted to be on our team, fine, just go away. As a fan, I just wanted to move on. Maxey would take full advantage of stepping up and playing a much bigger role in Ben's absence. On October 29th, A2D Radio reported the Philadelphia 76ers have announced that they have exercised the fourth-year option for Matisse Thybulle and the third-year option for Tyrese Maxey. Both options will go into effect for the 2022-2023 season. Y'all, I was happy because I love Tyrese and Matisse. I was thrilled that they would remain on our Sixers squad. Also around this time, there was still talk of us getting Damian Lillard from the Portland Trail Blazers. And I thought, OMG, can you even imagine that lineup? Joel Embiid, Damian Lillard, Tobias Harris, and our rising star, Tyrese Maxey. That should be enough to get us into the Eastern Conference Finals, right? Well, y'all, on November 1st, Anthony Gargano, a.k.a. The Cuz on 97.5, The Fanatic, took to the airwaves during his midday show and said that he was looking for people to show up at the Four Seasons Hotel in Center City with signs to recruit Damian Lillard at 3 p.m. that day. And he was telling everyone on the airwaves, spread the word. Y'all, Anthony Gargano is hilarious. He is a huge Sixers fan. Huge. Sixers huge. That's actually one of his lines that I still say to this day. Sixers huge. Well, y'all, Anthony was trying to gather as many fans as possible outside the Four Seasons Hotel with signs, energy, excitement, enthusiasm, so that when the Blazers went to board their bus to head over to the Wells Fargo Center, Damian Lillard would see how much us Sixers fans really wanted him in Philly. And he could see how awesome we are. And he could possibly consider us as his next city destination. Y'all, as bad as I wanted to be there to to entice Damian Lillard, y'all, I couldn't make it because I had to get ready for the actual game that evening. And I still had to pick up my 8-year-old niece, Fallon, before we headed to the game against the Portland Trail Blazers. So, y'all, Fallon and I get to the game, and she says to me, why are we here so early? Because I told y'all, I'm really like one of the first people to come through the door because they allow season ticket holders early entry like 90 minutes before tip-off. And I like to avoid the crowds. So she's walking around the Wells Fargo Center and in the concourse, and there's probably just a handful of people there, like first thing. And she's looking around like, why are we here so early? And I told her, listen, Aunt Mal, that's what she calls me. She calls me Aunt Mal. It's a family nickname. I said, Aunt Mal likes to get here early because I have a whole routine. And over the years, y'all, my family have adapted my pregame routine. Well, anyway, Val and I, we get, our food and our drinks and, she had soda, of course. And we get to our seats and we're taking photos. Like that's all part of the pregame routine. And then while we're watching the game, Fallon points to the scoreboard on the Jumbotron. And she says, Aunt Mal, did Ben Simmons get traded to Portland? And confused, I'm like, no. Then I realized she was pointing to the name Simons as in Anthony Simons. I started cracking up because even though she was only 8 years old, she knew that we were trying to trade Ben. So I said, no, Anthony Simons plays for Portland, but hopefully in the near future, Ben is playing for Portland in exchange for Damian Lillard. Around this time, the new City Edition jerseys were released, and I love them. Like, y'all, this is probably one of my favorite Sixers jerseys. It's the one that's in navy blue with Sixers in the old school Spectrum font and bright red across the chest. It has the Spectrum colors striped along the sides, the red stripe, the orange stripe, the green stripe, and the blue stripe. And not only do those colors represent the Spectrum, the iconic arena where we won the championship, those colors represent the Philadelphia sports teams. So the red stripe represents the Phillies, the orange stripe represents the Flyers, the green stripe represents the Eagles, and the blue stripe represented the Sixers. And I guess in today's time, we can say the blue stripe also represents the Philadelphia Union. Well, anyway, y'all, I immediately went to the Fanatics website and placed my order for my City Edition jersey, and I got Maxey, of course, because he's my favorite. On November 6th, we played the Chicago Bulls, and I noted in my notebook that Embiid had 30 points, 15 rebounds, and Furkan Korkmaz shot 7 3-pointers. And y'all, B-Ball Paul had a crucial putback bucket, and I noted that Maxey is fearless driving to the rim, and Doc coached a great game. All the players stepped up, great win. Like, how could you not be excited about this team? 2 days later, November 8th, Ben Simmons trade rumors that the Celtics and 76ers engaged in talks, Jaylen Brown linked. And I thought, hell yeah, I'd take Jaylen Brown from the Celtics for Ben Simmons. Jaylen is a baller. But for real, I didn't think this could actually happen. Because why would Boston trade Jaylen Brown to another team in the same conference? Especially a team like us, the Sixers, who was a huge rival and their biggest competition. And at the time, their general manager was Brad Stevens. And those Celtics GMs, whether it's Brad Stevens, Danny Ainge, y'all, they are way too smart to do a dummy move like that. So I couldn't get too excited about the possibility of getting Jaylen Brown in that scenario. Around this time, players like Matisse, Tobias, Embiid, and other players around the league were still testing positive for COVID-19, and they were put in health and safety protocol. Well, on November 8th, Embiid tested positive and missed the game against the New York Knicks. Well, y'all, listen, Andre Drummond was our backup center, and he had a monster game. Get this, my man, Andre Drummond, had 14 points, 25 rebounds. I'm talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 rebounds in 38 minutes. What? Y'all, that's insane. What a crazy stat. And I had heard by Sixers play-by-play announcer Tom McGinnis that the last Sixer to record that many rebounds was Charles Barkley back in 1987. Well, unfortunately, we lost that game to the New York Knicks 103-96, but I appreciated the effort from our guys who suited up and played hard that night. I was resenting Ben for holding out because I personally missed the impact that Ben had on our game, and I felt like games like this, Ben could have been the difference maker. And at the same time, I felt, disappointed in Ben because he bailed on his teammates. Like, how do you quit on your team like that? Especially when you know you're still getting paid. And I remember for that New York Knicks game, I wore my T-shirt that said in big letters across the front, "Missing. Have you seen his jumper?" And it was kind of like a take on, those missing children photos. I mean, we should make fun of this, but those missing people photos that be on the back of a milk carton. So it kind of had like that style on the front of the T-shirt. And there was like a mugshot of Ben Simmons with the description of his date of birth, missing 24/7, his age 25, weight 230 pounds, height 6'10", and identifying characteristics, mental. And on the back of the T-shirt was Mr. Softy's logo, the ice cream Mr. Softy. Well, it was the Mr. Softy logo, and Ben's face was printed in the ice cream. And y'all, now I'm reliving these moments and, I'm going through my notes and all that stuff. I am kind of embarrassed that I actually wore that shirt, y'all, because obviously at this point I had turned on Ben because I thought he had turned his back on us fans, especially fans like me who had supported and defended him his entire career. But now I feel bad because I could have felt the way that I felt without advertising and promoting it on a T-shirt. And I know that y'all know the T-shirt that I'm talking about because half of Philadelphia owns that T-shirt. I guarantee it. But y'all, for real, damn, I wish things could have just ended differently with Ben. On November the 11th, 11/11, Shams Charania reported Ben Simmons believes the 76ers' tactics are worsening his mental health instead of supporting him and want to deem him mentally fit in order to force him to play. And my thought immediately went to, Ben obviously thinks that he's God's gift to basketball. And I guess if I had to hear fans and media always talking about a young and talented up-and-coming Tyrese Maxey, and I'm losing lots of money, I guess I'd have mental issues too. And at the end of the day, I'm sure Ben probably had his own personal stuff going on. But I think at the same time, Ben overvalued his talents. And as fans, we were part of the blame. And I'm sure it did not help for Ben to hear conversations in the media and out in the public circles that wasn't just about him crippling the team. Because there were also positive conversations that were going on that put a spotlight on our budding star, Tyrese Maxey. In fact, just 2 days later, on November 13th, I journaled, "Just give the ball to Maxey." Because y'all, Maxey was balling out. And like I said earlier, Tyrese saw opportunity and was taking full advantage of Ben's absence. Now, on a sad note, on that same day, November 13th, it was also reported that Sixers assistant coach Dave Yeager was diagnosed with head and neck cancer. And I journaled, dang, prayers for Coach Yeager. Now, fast forward to present day, Coach Yeager was able to make a recovery and return to the Sixers coaching staff. I love the Sixers City Edition jersey so much that on November 15th, I purchased a second jersey from the NBA store. This time, it was Embiid's number 21 jersey, and I tweeted, I got my @Sixers City Edition Embiid jersey today. I wanted to buy everything on the freaking NBA store site. Had me convincing myself, girl, you work hard. You deserve it. And get them slides too, with the laughing emoji, the red heart, the blue heart, and a bell. #Sixers. Because y'all, not only did they have the jersey, but they also had like the Sixers slides, like the Adidas slides that people wear on their feet. Well, they had the same like Spectrum Edition print on like a pair of slides. So I was debating, like, do I get the slides? Do I get the hat? Now keep in mind, it's like November, so I didn't really see good use in purchasing slides right now. And I decided to just go ahead and get the Sixers hat. So the NBA store retweeted my tweet with a comment, girlie, you do work hard, play harder, and buy the slides. And then I commented on that tweet with the gif of, and I don't know if y'all seen this before, but it's the gif of the Little Rascals character, Spanky. And he's in the window, it's a black and white gif, and he's in the window and he's literally just throwing cash out the window. So I sent that because that's how I felt when it comes to like the NBA store, Fanatics. Like if I saw anything Sixers that I didn't already have, I was like, I gotta buy it. So I was literally just throwing my money out the window to buy all this Sixers stuff. So, like I said, I didn't buy the Sixers City Edition slides, but I did buy the matching winter hat. And y'all know the one. It's the one with the pom-pom on the top. And what's crazy is, y'all, I don't even like wearing hats because I got a big old head. Like, I know that about myself. But y'all, I have to admit, I look cute in my Sixers Spectrum City Edition hat. On November 22nd, we beat the Sacramento Kings 102-94. I was proud of our guys because we got the win on the road and we were shorthanded. No Embiid, no Seth Curry, no Tobias, no Danny Green, and we still won the game. I was like, what? Y'all, Tyrese Maxey was our leading scorer with 24 points. Shake Milton had 16 points. Matisse Thybulle had 15 points. Bang Bang George Niang had 12 points. And Cork Maz and Isaiah Joe each contributed 11 points. We didn't have our starters. We didn't even have Ben Simmons. But the other players rallied with the next man up mentality to win the game. As a fan, you gotta love that. A week later, on November 29th, we played the Orlando Magic at home. I arrived early for the pregame shoot-around, and as Tobias Harris headed back to the tunnel, I yelled, "Tobias!" Y'all, I always yell the players' names, and they usually just ignore me along with the other fans. But y'all, Tobias stopped and looked me dead in my eyes and did the little, the finger point thing, like, I see you. And y'all, I screamed as I snapped a dope picture. I shared that photo on my social media with the caption, "Ah!" Tobias pointed me out at pregame shoot-around. Y'all, I was hyped. And then 2 nights later, on December 1st, we played the Boston Celtics on the road. Society 76 hosted another Sixers watch party at Parks Casino. My niece Taylor went with me, and I told y'all it's always a great time. There's food, there's drinks, there's raffles. Well, that night, y'all, I won a blue Sixers hoodie. It is nice. So on the front of the jacket, on one side is Phila, Phila, and on the other side is the NBA and the Nike logo. So y'all, this is a Nike Sixers NBA hoodie. It is cute. And even though we lost to the Celtics by 1 point, Taylor and I still had a great time. Y'all remember in my last episode, I told y'all about my New Orleans road trip? It was such an awesome experience. I decided that was going to be on my bucket list. I was going to see my Sixers play in every NBA arena. At that point, I had already seen my Sixers play at the Spectrum and Wells Fargo Center, that's 2, in Philly. American Airlines Arena in Dallas, that's 3. The Amway Center in Orlando, that's 4. Barclays Center in Brooklyn, that's 5. And the Smoothie King Arena in New Orleans, that's 6. My next road trip? Atlanta. I was going to see my Sixers play the Atlanta Hawks at the State Farm Arena. On December 3rd, Kendall and I took an early, dark, cold winter flight to Atlanta. She was on winter break from school, and I was thrilled she was able to join me. We arrived in Atlanta early that morning, and we decided to visit Aunt Dee Dee, who also lives in Atlanta, before we checked into our hotel. Now, y'all, technically, Aunt Dee Dee is my ex-husband's blood aunt, but she told me and was very clear that even though Larry and I were divorced, I was going to always be her niece. And y'all, that's love, because divorce is difficult on everyone. It affects both sides of the family, especially those who prayed for our success. So after divorce, things can sometimes become awkward. Well, y'all, it was my first time seeing Aunt Dee Dee since the divorce, and she didn't act any different. She was her same funny, loving, and supportive self. And we got to see our little cousin, Grayson, and we ate and had some cocktails. It was nice because it gave us the opportunity to catch up. And then early afternoon, Kendall and I Ubered to our hotel. We took a quick nap, showered, and then walked over to the State Farm Arena. It was only a few blocks away, and we did the normal routine. We go through security, we scan our tickets, then we walk the entire concourse. We checked out the concession stands, we people watch, and of course you have to point out and woohoo with the other Sixers fans that you run into. And y'all, there were a lot of us in that arena that night. There were so many Sixers fans at the State Farm Arena that I made a post about it on Facebook and said, it felt like a Philly takeover. Kendall and I headed to our lower level seats, and as we sat in our seats, we heard some man yelling in the distance behind us, "Kendall!" We couldn't see him, we just heard him. We laughed and continued watching the players warm up at the basket at our end of the court. Then the Kendall shouts got louder. "Kendall! Kendall! Kendall!" Chuckling, Kendall and I looked around and just laughed with each other. Then we heard, "Kendall from Norristown, I know you hear me." Kendall and I looked at each other in shock, and I said, "What the hell?" Y'all, standing behind me was my friend Tori, who I had not seen since high school. We had went to Norristown Area High School together back in the 80s, and he had since moved and built a very successful life in Atlanta. Tori had seen my Facebook post that Kendall and I were in Atlanta for the game, along with all of our selfies, and he found us in the arena. Y'all, I had not seen Tori in over 30 years. And we hugged and laughed, and we just quickly caught up and didn't miss a beat. And Tori looks great. And since he lived in the ATL, he was an Atlanta Hawks season ticket holder. And then he told me from time to time he'd see our other Norristown High schoolmate, Xanthia Reddish, at all the games, because y'all, Xanthia is Cam Reddish's mom. And during this time, Cam Reddish was playing for the Atlanta Hawks. They actually drafted him. And I had mentioned in season 1 of this podcast in the earlier episodes that Xanthia and her twin sister, Orthia, were younger than me, but we rode the same bus to high school. Well, y'all, Tori was also on that same bus. And even though Kendall and I were just visiting Atlanta for a couple days, y'all, it felt like home. I felt very connected. It was a fun and exciting game. I'm glad Kendall and I got to experience it together. Y'all, we were the most excited when hip-hop artist Waka Flocka Flame came out at halftime and performed my song, No Hands. Y'all know the song. Dun, 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 dun. Na, 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 na. Y'all, trust me, I know the words. I'm just not trying to get in any trouble with copyright issues with Waka Flocka. Well, anyway, y'all, I was hyped because that is my joint. And we were hyped because we felt like not only were we at a Sixers game, but we was at a concert. And y'all, at the end of the game, we had the opportunity to meet Waka Flocka in person. I was able to quickly take a photo of Kendall and Waka before they whisked him away. It made her day. I felt like Mom of the Year. Shoot, it made my day. Not to mention, y'all, we beat the Atlanta Hawks in a very close game, 98-96. Joel Embiid had 28 points, 12 rebounds. Seth Curry had 18 points, and we had 3 other players in double-digit scoring. Bang Bang George Niang, Tyrese Maxey, and Danny Green. Y'all, I had now officially seen my Sixers play in 7 different NBA arenas. What a trip. I was grateful for the experience. I was grateful for it all. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And be sure to tune in next time when we continue the story.